الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أما بعد. Islam teaches us a very beautiful and very gripping concept, which is that true life does not exist without an integral piece which is contained and ingrained within life. So if you're a person who wishes to be a living person, you know, when we study science, for example, we detect a living organism through certain things. Back in England, we used to call it Mrs. Gren or Mrs. Nerg. Movement, reproduction, sensitivity, 7 aspects or 7 ways to detect something living. When we study Islam, the concept of detecting something living is to see if that living body of that living person has a concept that is very important and very amazing. And this we'll call guidance. So without guidance, the person is not really living. The person is dead before death itself. And an integral piece of life is guidance, hidayah. And for that purpose, when we are praying, one of the requisites or pillars of prayer is to read Surah Al-Fatiha. One of the pillars of prayer, one of the arkan of salah is Surah Al-Fatiha, qira'atu Surah Al-Fatiha. And one of the verses in Surah Al-Fatiha that we recite with every obligatory prayer is Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. We make this dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we invoke Allah, we supplicate to Him, and we ask Him for guidance. And the concept of guidance goes very, very deeply within our religion. And it is something that I wish to shed some light on today in this reminder, this gathering of ours. So I would like to take us all back to a story that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reports to us in the Quran about Ibrahim alayhi salam when he had a dialogue with his people. And the people of Ibrahim, they were pagans, idolaters, people who used to worship idols. And Ibrahim alayhi salam was a monotheistic person who abstained from idol worship. So Ibrahim has this dialogue with his people. And he says to his people, أَفْرَأَيْتُمْ مَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْبُدُونَ أَنْتُمْ وَآبَاؤُكُمُ الْأَقْدَمُونَ. These idols that you have all taken as deities, you know, yourselves and your forefathers who came before you, فَإِنَّهُمْ عَدُوٌّ لِي إِلَّا رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. I declare this enmity, I declare this, I free myself entirely from this that you are taking as deities. I don't worship it. And they are enemies of mine. Except for who? إِلَّا رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Except for the Lord of the universe, the Lord of every living being, the Lord who inaugurated the heavens and the earth, the Lord who has created us. He is not one I take as an enemy. I worship Him and I submit to Him. But the other deities that you worship besides Allah Azza wa Jal, I have this enmity towards them. And then when he spoke about the qualities that Allah has, he said, الَّذِي خَلَقَنِي فَهُوَ يَهْدِينَ. So this is the part that I want to stop at and really reflect upon. So he mentioned certain qualities Allah Azza wa Jal has. The first quality he mentioned is الَّذِي خَلَقَنِي, the one who created me. So he's the inaugurator, the one who has created. So he has this sublime quality of creation. But when he created, he ingrained something within creation itself. So creation is not omitted this reality, which is الَّذِي خَلَقَنِي, the one who created me, فَهُوَ يَهْدِينَ, and he's the one who guides. Because without guidance, there's no life. This person is dead, even though he may be perceived to be living. He may be walking, he may be talking, he may be breathing. So in the scientific sense, you would declare this a living person. But in the spiritual sense, life, you will not declare it here. There's death. And you need to understand that there's a connection between the psychology and the spirituality of a person. So if there is spiritual death, it would really eat away at the psychology of the person. Which is why a lot of people that we see who may be financially stable, we also have a very different way of measuring standards when it comes to finances. Who is financially stable? Especially when it comes to marriage and women, how they perceive financial stability. It's a whole wreck. So the people we see within the society, we have this class division, right? We have the upper class, we have the middle class, we have the working class, we have the lower class. And what divides the classes is riches. So when we look all the way at the top of the hierarchy, we will see that the upper class, or celebrities, let's say, who boost themselves with the money that they earn, we believe that these people psychologically cannot suffer. But these people are living in the scientific sense again. They eat, they drink, and they have enough money to go around with regards to earning themselves a living. They have enough money to last them lifetimes. So they would be able to eat, they would be able to quench their thirst, satiate their hunger. That they can do. But spiritually speaking, they are not living beings. They're dead. And just like in the scientific sense, if the person is brain dead, they will kind of be deemed as dead. Literally almost the same, just flip it to the spiritual sense. If the person is suffering from spirituality and they have spiritual illnesses, you would declare this a dead person. So for that reason, and I'm sure in this country, all of you here, I'm the one from England, you're the ones who have more celebrities than we do. I'm sure most of you here would attest to the fact that a lot of celebrities commit suicide. A lot of celebrities psychologically suffer. And the reason is, there's an integral piece within life that they lack. And that is what Ibrahim alayhi salam is saying in this dialogue that he's having with his people. الَّذِي خَلَقَنِي فَهُوَ يَهْدِينَ. The one who created me, and what did he do when creating me? He guided me. And this is an aspect that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He reminds us of throughout the Quran. It's a theme that we see in the Quran. So Allah, for example, when He's addressing our Prophet, and He's mentioning the blessings that He endowed upon him, وَوَجَدَكَ ضَالًّا فَهَدَى. He found you lost and He guided you. And this is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah is telling him that without his guidance, he would have remained a lost person, a lost soul. And this is the best of men to ever walk this earth. And He's told us and He's reminded of this. And towards the end of the surah, this chapter, Surah Al-Duha, Allah says what? وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. One of the ways to show gratitude to the blessings that Allah has bestowed upon you is to speak about it, to tell people about it, that Allah found me lost and He guided me. So the issue of guidance is very important. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions, أَلَمْ نَجْعَلْ لَهُ عَيْنَيْنِ وَلِسَانًا وَشَفَتَيْنِ وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ. And Allah mentions, did I not give you two eyes? So Allah is speaking the biology of the person, what he has been blessed with. You have been given two eyes. And you've been given two lips. And then Allah furthermore mentions the aspect that we are speaking about. وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ. And we have guided him to that which is good. Clarified it to him. So he knows the good and he knows the bad. So the ability of discerning between the two paths, the path that guides and leads to Jannah, and the path that leads to hellfire, the ability to distinguish between the two. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions this. So we need to obviously remember this concept. And this is the concept that we start with. And this is the concept, hidayah is the concept of ilm itself, knowledge. Because without knowledge, you're not a living person. Like I said, you're that dead person. And there's a poem that some scholars, they mention, they say, وَفِي الْجَهْلِ قَبْلَ الْمَوْتِ مَوْتٌ لِأَهْلِهِ وَأَجْسَامُهُمْ قَبْلَ الْقُبُورِ قُبُورُ وَأَرْوَاحُهُمْ فِي وَحْشَةٍ مِّن جُسُومِهِمْ فَلَيْسَ لَهُمْ حَتَّى النُّشُورُ نُشُورُ. Which says that in ignorance, there is death. Before the actual death grips you and comes to you, there's death in ignorance. And the people who are living in the state of ignorance, their bodies is just contained in a shell that we call bodies. It's a shell that contains the soul, that is it. But the person is not bliss, the opposite, in an abyss of ignorance. And then the poet, he said, وَأَرْوَاحُهُمْ, he said, فَلَيْسَ لَهُمْ حَتَّى النُّشُورِ نُشُورُ. That even in resurrection, this person is not resurrected. When everybody passes away, and then the resurrection happens, and people would come out of their graves. This person is not resurrected because he never really died. In the sense of the other people, the way they died, he never died. His death far preceded their death. So his death was marked by ignorance, and he was dead even when perceived living. So this is the concept. And it's the concept where when Allah mentions that human beings are in loss, Allah mentions human beings are in loss. So I want you all to be paying attention, inshallah. I have a habit of when I'm talking, I don't deliver lectures. I deliver lessons. So all of you here are students sitting down and paying attention. So I would randomly point to whoever I believe is not paying attention. So if you hear that, please don't let that be what triggers you running away. Just remain seated, inshallah. And just be paying attention so that when I point fingers at you, you'll be able to answer. So we're all taking it seriously now, yes? Everybody's focusing here. Okay, that's good. So the ignorance and knowledge of spirituality is what we are speaking about. In a surah that we all know, and I hope we can reflect on this surah, is Surah Al-Asr. And Allah swears by time. And there is not a living being that is not contained within time. All of the people, every different species that we have in this world, they are contained within space and time. So we are governed and regulated and modulated by time and space. We can't escape time and space. So Allah swears by that which we are contained within, wal asr. And then He says, innal insana lafi khusr. That verily, mankind or man or human beings, we have a lot of feminists today who don't like the word mankind. So men, human beings, they are in loss. So all of them, without exception. Allah makes this declaration, innal insana lafi khusr, they are all in loss. And then here comes the dispensation, the exception. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, which is the hidayah we're speaking about. Except for those who believe. وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, they do what? Righteous deeds. So this is true life. And it is the aspect that makes us escape the loss that Allah declares for all human beings. So we are people who have knowledge. And real knowledge is what? Guidance. And guidance is the ilm that we need and the iman. Because when we define, and this is one of the problems that we have when we try bridging the gap between the English language and Islam as a source of guidance. We use certain lexicons, we use certain words, and we define it into English. But English does not really capture the word that we are trying to define. And one of these words is iman. Iman in English, I think one of the definitions or translations is faith, right? Like if you go to the dictionary, faith is blind belief. That you take this leap of faith. That's what we say, right? A leap of faith, that you just accept something, even though you are absent evidences. So this person is a believer in the English language, is a person who's not really pinned under the score or scores of evidences. Is a person who's taken this leap and embracing something, even though there's a high possibility that what he is believing in may not necessarily be the case. But in Islam, iman is actually yaqeen. Iman is certainty. Because you're given enough evidences to quote unquote believe. So it's not really, English is not really capturing the word here. When we say iman, what we mean is that you testify to something. And this testimony comes as a product of the evidences that you are given. So Allah gives you scores of evidences, and with that you, again quote unquote, you believe. And then comes the righteous deeds Allah mentions. And then وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. So this is something that we need to reflect. Once you have knowledge, and once you have hidayah, guidance, there's a secondary level that we need. And without the secondary level, there's no salvation. An eternal salvation, or salvation from eternal doom and eternal damnation, that is what we all seek. And that is what guidance is about. You are guided to a path, وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ, a path that guides to Jannah and a path that guides to hellfire. Does that make sense? So you wish to escape the path that leads to the fire, and you wish to tread on the path that leads to Jannah. So what you need after guidance is what we call al-istiqamah. Al-istiqamah. So the first thing is al-hidayah, guidance, and the secondary level is al-istiqamah. So bear with me, inshallah. I'm not going to be here too long. I'm going to conclude this and wrap this up. So it may sound, my monotone may sound very boring, but I promise it's coming to an end. But let's do this together. Let it be a lesson that you all take home. What was the first step? Yeah, this is where we are going to determine who was awake and who wasn't. The first one was al-hidayah, mashallah, which is guidance, right? And the second one, the second step, al-istiqamah. In English, we define al-istiqamah to be steadfastness, which is obviously another problem we have with the language. There's a big gap that can't be bridged. But the word istiqamah comes from iqama or aqama yuqimu. There's is put before it. And it is a word that obviously connotes straightness. So the path, the sirat in the Quran, when we read Surah Al-Fatiha, what do we say? Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. So what we are asking Allah is that He guides us not on any path, but on a path that has qualities. And one of the qualities of this path is what? That it is a straight path. So straightness of that path is what we are asking. So when you are on the path and you are treading on the path, you wish to first of all tread on a straight path. Secondly, you wish to be walking straightwardly upon the path. Because imagine now you are on a path that directly, helps you navigate to your destination. And you have, let's say, the vehicle now which transports you to the destination, but instead of going forward, you reroute. Okay, let's pronounce again, reroute. You have that American accent. Reroute. Instead of going forward, you go what? The other direction. So that's not what you really aim to do, right? You wish to reach that destination upon this straight path, but you want to go in a straight way, navigate directly, straightwardly, and not go backwards. So the word istiqamah comes from there, that you are treading on this path and you are going straight all the way to your destination. And obviously there is thabat, which is steadfastness now, which is to be equated with the manner in which you navigate. So I want you all to pay attention here. In Islam, there's no discrimination. Even though, yes, anything that we have, whether it is a concept, whether it is an ideology, whether it is materialistic objects, there's always going to be a hierarchy, whether you like it or not. There's always going to be a hierarchy. And at the peak of the hierarchy, you're always going to have the elite. People who are more grounded in whatever you are speaking about than other people. So you have people at the base of the hierarchy and people all the way to the peak of the hierarchy. Does that make sense? In Islamic sense, in the spiritual sense, in the spiritual dimension, the people all the way at the peak of the hierarchy are the prophets. So Allah mentions a hierarchy. وَمَنْ يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِم مِّنَ النَّبِيِّينَ وَالصِّدِّيقِينَ وَالشُّهَدَاءِ وَالصَّالِحِينَ. So we have the prophets all the way at the top. And then we have a group of people who follow them, succeed them in this hierarchy, and we call them as-siddiqeen. And there are people who come below them, and we call them what? Ash-shuhada, the martyrs. And then there are those below them, and then we call them as-salihin, the righteous people. So Islam now, in this hierarchy, does not discriminate. It directs obligation to the person all the way at the elite person, all the way at the peak of the hierarchy, with you can say, commandments that are also subjected to the people at the base of this hierarchy. In this concept that we are now speaking about, which is al-istiqamah, Allah directs it equally to the prophets as He also directs it to the righteous people or the believers, the lay people of the Muslims. They are equally demanded steadfastness upon this path. So let's look at who Allah has spoken about, or who Allah has commanded istiqamah, this concept of being straightness. Musa alayhi salam and Harun, they made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they invoked Allah's power and His wrath to descend upon Pharaoh and his followers, who are wreaking a lot of havoc on the earth, are causing a lot of disruption. So they invoked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they made dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes care of these people. And then Allah replies back to them. So listen to what Allah says to them. He says to them, قَالَ قَدْ أُجِيبَتْ دَعْوَتُكُمَا. Allah says to Musa and Harun, both your invocations have been what? Accepted. فَاسْتَقِيمًا. So Allah, what does He do? He laces this with a commandment. I have accepted both your invocations. فَاسْتَقِيمَا. So he laces it with this commandment. Both of you come up with this concept, this practice that I demand. And Allah calls it what? Al-istiqamah. To be straight on the path. وَلَا تَتَّبِعَانِ سَبِيلَ الَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. And do not have inclination to the paths of those who do not have, what do they not possess? لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. They don't possess the ilm. Don't follow the paths of those who do not possess the knowledge. Because what is ignorance? Death. Remember this. It is actual death. The people are dead. Don't follow dead people when you are a living soul. So Musa and Harun are told, take this path and be straight upon it, and don't follow the paths of those who do not know. So this is, like I said, all the way at the top of the hierarchy. Musa alayhi salam and Harun, who are the prophets of their people, of the Israelites, they are being commanded this. And this similar reality is obviously something that we see with our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In many places of the Quran, Allah commands our Prophet this concept. فَاسْتَقِمْ كَمَا أُمِرْتَ وَمَنْ تَابَ مَعَكَ وَلَا تَطْغَوْا إِنَّهُ لِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ. So Allah, He says to our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he and those who are with him, be steadfast upon what you have been commanded, and those who have repented with you, and they are the believers, be steadfast. Be upon this path. Contain yourself within it. Continuously tread upon this path and navigate upon it. So when orienting yourself to your destination, which is the kingdom of heaven, you wish to enter this kingdom of heaven, you're going to have a lot of pitfalls that present themselves as you navigate towards the kingdom of heaven. And these are pitfalls that you have to circumvent. You have to make sure that you go around these pitfalls. And you need to overcome and leap any hurdle that comes your way. And you need to ensure that you are not prey to the whispers of shaitan, or the ensnarement of shaitan, or the whispers of the soul, or following the paths of those who do not know. So be steadfast upon this path. Continue upon this path in a straightforward manner. And continue in your navigation until you come to the destination. That is what Allah is telling our Prophet. And that is what Allah is telling those who are with him. So this is a concept that we really need to understand. First is guidance, and then there is istiqamah, to be steadfast. Another thing the Prophet is commanded to say, قُلْ إِنَّمَا أَنَا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُكُمْ يُوحَى إِلَيَّ أَنَّمَا إِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ. O Prophet, say to these people that I am nothing but a man. All I am is a man. But I have an exceeding quality to manliness, which is what? يُوحَى إِلَيَّ. I receive revelation, which is the paragon of wisdom and knowledge. The highest form of wisdom and knowledge is revelation. So I received that. And obviously Allah nominated the Prophet for this. Allah chose the Prophet for this. So he had qualities in which Allah chose him, which sets him apart from all other men. But I'm only but a man, upon whom revelation is descending and revealing. And I am telling you people that you have no deity worthy of worship but one. إِنَّمَا إِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ. أَنَّمَا إِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ. Your deity is only one, and that is Allah. فَاسْتَقِيمُوا إِلَيْهِ. So be straightforward. Be upon this nature of being straight and steadfast on that path towards your Lord. وَاسْتَغْفِرُوهُ. And seek His forgiveness. And the people who follow this are what? The believers. The people who take in, who absorb the guidance and have steadfastness upon the path and seek forgiveness from their sins, because you're a human being. It is inevitable that you would commit a mistake, a sin. So ask Allah for forgiveness. And those obviously who go against you are who? وَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُشْرِكِينَ. And woe be upon the polytheists, those who worship besides Allah. So this is the distinguishable trait that the believer has. Hidayah, istiqamah, istighfar, and the likes. So this is what the Prophet ﷺ is telling us. طيب. After a couple of verses, I will definitely conclude this time, inshallah. What is the thamara? What is the fruit, the merit of istiqamah? So I'm here, obviously. If you sell something, you have to tell the people the merit of what you're selling them. So if I'm here promoting something, and I'm, telling you to do something or to buy into this business or this idea, I have to obviously introduce to the people who are sitting or listening what they get out of it. What do I get out of it? That's what, as human beings, we're very concerned about. What do I get out of it? We always ask that question. So if you're asking that question, listen to the answer. If you have istiqamah, what is the thamara, the merit? What do you get out of guidance and istiqamah? So I hope the youth are paying attention. This is what Allah is telling us in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهِ. Those who say our Lord is Allah. So they make this declaration. They make this declaration a way of submission. They submit to Allah. They declare their subservience to Allah. Our Lord is Allah. We don't take any other deities to whom we submit besides Allah. So whoever says this and makes this declaration, my Lord is Allah. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا. And after this declaration, they are steadfast. They tread on the path, the straight path, as-siratul mustaqim, in the straight manner, navigating and orienting themselves towards the destination. تَتَنَزَّلُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْمَلَائِكَةِ. Again, remember what we mentioned about hierarchy. There's hierarchy in species as well. Angels as species are far greater than human beings because they are sinless. They don't perpetrate any crime. And Allah Azza wa Jalla mentioned that to us. عَلَيْهَا مَلَائِكَةٌ غِلَاظٌ شِدَادٌ لَا يَعْصُونَ اللَّهَ مَا أَمَرَهُمْ وَيَفْعَلُونَ مَا يُؤْمَرُونَ. When it comes to the, guarding the paradise, the Jannah, the hellfire, the ones who guard are the angels. They are the guards of the fire. And they are, Allah mentioned, shidad, so they have brute strength. لَا يَعْصُونَ اللَّهَ مَا أَمَرَهُمْ. Allah has that, army. They don't disobey Allah in what He commands. وَيَفْعَلُونَ مَا يُؤْمَرُونَ. And they do what they are commanded. So they are not sinners like us. So as species, they're far greater than us. Imagine now, because of your guidance and because of your steadfastness, angels descending upon you. Wave after wave, volleys of angels coming down to you as a human being. And they are coming down for what purpose? For the fact that you are now deemed an elite person, due to you having these qualities of guidance and steadfastness. تَتَنَزَّلُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْمَلَائِكَةِ. And then Allah would glad tide them. أَلَّا تَخَافُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا. Don't have any fear or any sorrows on the day of judgment. وَأَبْشِرُوا بِالْجَنَّةِ الَّتِي كُنْتُمْ تُوعَدُونَ. And Allah glad tides these group of people who have this quality of steadfastness, made the declaration of monotheism. Allah, He says, وَأَبْشِرُوا بِالْجَنَّةِ. Be prepared for Jannah. I promise you Jannah. That is what we have stored for you. الَّتِي كُنْتُمْ تُوعَدُونَ نَحْنُ أَوْلِيَاؤُكُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ. The angels are speaking to you. We are what? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likewise. He is within the nahnu here, according to أحد قولي المفسرين. So, we are your awliya. Imagine having Allah as a friend. Imagine having, in another hadith, which is hadith Qudsi now, a hadith that the Prophet ascribed to Allah. Allah, He said, مَنْ عَادَ لِي وَلِيًّا فَقَدْ آذَنْتُهُ بِالْحَرْبِ. Whoever shows enmity to any of my friends, I wage war against that person. Allah is battling your wars or battling on your behalf. Imagine that. So, Allah, He says, we are your awliya in this life and the hereafter. وَلَكُمْ فِيهَا مَا تَشْتَهِي أَنفُسُكُمْ وَلَكُمْ فِيهَا مَا تَدَّعُونَ. And within Jannah, what do you get? You get whatever you wish. Anything you wish, you get that in Jannah. And anything you ask for, you will be given. All of that as a result of what? Of istiqamah and tawheed. Declaring that Allah is your only deity of worship, that you would worship, and then being steadfast upon His commandments. So, nuzulan min ghafurur rahim. These are levels in the Jannah that you are given from the most merciful, the most sublime, the Almighty, the one with the most aesthetic qualities and features. He is the one who blesses you with this. So Allah, He mentions, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. This is the question that comes after all of this. Who is better in statement than a person who calls to Allah and says, I am from those who submit, I am from the believers? So this is what it means to be a Muslim. Doesn't matter what space you occupy. You can be in America, You can be in England, you can be in Europe, you can be in Australia, you can be any space that you occupy. What makes you a Muslim, one who submits to Allah, is a person, you being a person who apprehends knowledge. So you have to be a knowledgeable person. And it is with this thread of knowledge that you are able to weave this beautiful garment of guidance. Because without knowledge, you're not going to be a guided person. So in order to be this guided person, you have to have knowledge. So knowledge and then guidance. And then what does knowledge and guidance do if there's no steadfastness? Then you're not really a guided person. So you have to remain steadfast until when? حَتَّى تَلْقَوْنِ عَلَى الْحَوْضِ, as the Prophet ﷺ said, until you meet me upon where? The day of judgment. When the Prophet ﷺ is serving people from his lake or from his water, until we meet the Prophet ﷺ there, meaning until the day of judgment, we remain steadfast. So our life's quest is about apprehending true knowledge. It is not about graduating from universities, brothers and sisters. That makes you this knowledgeable person. It is gaining Islamic knowledge. And then secondly, it is about the practice of it. وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. It is about pragmatism, the ability to enact the commandments of Allah Azza wa Jal, and the ability to stay away from the prohibitions of Allah. But if you don't know what Allah has commanded because you lack the knowledge, and you don't know what He has prohibited because again you lack the knowledge, then guidance will never be an obtained element. Because you don't know what to do. You don't know how to practice and how to navigate. And then once you have all of this, you remain steadfast. You have patience. You remain. And you continue upon this path until you pass away. This is our life's quest. And true beauty lies in that. And that is what the Prophet ﷺ, his role was about. The Prophet ﷺ, he was cultivating a generation. He was a disciplinarian to this generation, disciplining them upon what? When we hear the word disciplinary, we always think about the corporal punishment side, where there's physical punishment, where you batter information into a person. No, he cultivated these minds that he had, these souls that he had, with Nurul Hidayah, the light of guidance, which came as knowledge and steadfastness. And that is what we wish to establish, even if we occupy such terrains, such landscape. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us upon the people of istiqamah, people of guidance, people of steadfastness. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala benefit us in what we have heard. And may Allah forgive me in anything that I have said which is wrong. I will conclude there. وبالله التوفيق وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.